14 years after these siblings were rescued, they locked eyes with the man who saved them. Two teenage siblings had gone through the unimaginable. Their lives looked different 14 years after they'd been rescued, but they'd never forget the face of the man who saved them. That became clear when they locked eyes with him again. In October of 2003, Carlisle Smith made his way to the Gravel residence in Norwalk, Ohio for the first time. He hoped to obtain a job as their family's part-time home help, aid that parents Sharon and Michael undoubtedly needed. They'd adopted 11 children after all. The Gravels were looking for someone to be there on either Saturday or Sunday most of the day so they could go out as a couple, Smith recalled on an episode of TV talk show Dr. Phil. The former football coach thought he was up to the task since he'd previously managed to lead 30 players on the field. But Smith quickly realized there were some aspects of the job he might not be able to handle. He noticed that Sharon was stern with her brood when she told him to play outside. When one came back inside to use the toilet, she lashed out. He came in the house and went to the bathroom, and when he was done he came out and she said, "Go upstairs and lock yourself in your cage until tomorrow afternoon," Smith said in the Dr. Phil interview posted online in April 2017. "That's the first time I ever heard the word cage." But it wouldn't be the last time he heard the Gravels mention their inhumane sleeping arrangements for their children. Later, Smith said that patriarch Michael had explained how the children's cages were rigged to alarms and speakers, so he and his wife would know if they tried to escape. "He told me a good way to look at the kids to see if they were trying to get out, as their fingers will be cut from trying to pry the chicken wire away from the wood," Smith continued. He never got to see the enclosures, but that description gave a clear sense of what the cages were like. Indeed, that revelation was enough for Smith to make up his mind. "I thought these children are being raised by monsters," he told Dr. Phil. He added, "I felt that they were treating these kids as less than animals." Smith's misgivings made it tough for the jobkeeper to go home at the end of the meeting. "Knowing how these kids were being abused in his house, it was very hard for me to leave. I got in my car and I was driving away from those kids. I had to pull over to the side of the road and I literally sobbed for their welfare," Smith admitted on camera. But the carer didn't stop there. After his meeting, he took his concerns directly to his bosses. "I got called into a meeting with Child Protective Services," Smith recounted. "They had me write down everything I saw and everything I witnessed." Shockingly, his account wasn't enough for them to take action. Nothing happened. There was absolute silence, Smith said. Nonetheless, he told Dr. Phil that he spent the next 3 years wondering about the fate of the Gravel children and speculating over what might have happened to them. Finally, a CPS worker uncovered Smith's notes about the conditions at the Gravel house. They rang him to discuss his observations, and "The next time I knew anything at all, Michael and Sharon had been arrested," he said. It was 2005 when all 11 children were rescued. Although their abusive parenting would eventually land them in jail for 2 years, Michael and Sharon always contended that it put the kids in cages for their own safety. In court, the children's lawyer Jack Landskroner rejected that extraordinary claim. Instead, Landskroner told a Daily Mail newspaper, "These kids were good kids. It's amazing the positive results you see on children who are placed in a loving, caring home." Unsurprisingly, the adopted children blamed much of their plight on the local government workers, who'd assented to their placement with the Gravels. Nearly 10 years after they were removed from the residence, the children reached the last of a series of legal settlements with the counties, agencies, and individuals once responsible for their care. They would take home $2 million from Stark County, where 3 of the children had lived beforehand. A $1.2 million deal had previously been struck with Huron County, where the Gravels lived. The details of the other resolutions remain undisclosed. And there was another thing on some of the children's to-do list, helping them to acknowledge their traumatic past and move on. 2 of the kids appeared on the Dr. Phil talk show in 2017 to share their story and laud the man whose actions had ultimately resulted in an end to their horrific upbringing. "If he was here right now, I'd gladly give him the biggest hug ever and tell him I love him," confesses the boy. According to the talk show host, Smith felt the same way. "So let's let that happen," says Dr. Phil before surprising the teens by presenting their rescuer in the flesh. The girl is the first to give Smith a hug, tears streaming down her face as she steps forward to embrace him. Although both are crying, thus making their conversation difficult to decipher, it's clear she tells him thank you for all that he's done. As she and Smith hug, her brother joins in just as he said he would. As soon as the 3 break from their embrace, he looks Smith right in the eye and says, "You're a good man, you saved my life." Then the boy tells the audience this is a real man right here, as the studio audience cheers for the children's rescuer. That statement surely adds to the joy Smith says he's feeling. "It's absolutely amazing to see them. I'm so proud of you guys," he ends with saying.